welcome back to Jim Builds. I'm Jim, and today we're going to talk about 3D printing. This is something that's not new technology, and there's an awful lot that's been said about 3D printing and how to get into it, but I just want to talk about the relevance of 3D printing in the classic car world. Because surprisingly, it's a really powerful tool if you use it right. And I'm not going to go into the detail of how a printer works because, as I said, there's a lot of stuff on that, or what printers to buy, because again, it's going to date this video pretty quickly, but have a look into it. What I am going to talk about is the steps to take if you're considering 3D printing, which you should, and do a couple of examples. So, first off, 3D printing in classic cars. What can you do? One quick example. Now this got me out of trouble quite quickly, and I was very pleased with it. A couple of months back, I was checking the oil on my diff and struggled to get the diff plug out, to the point where I had to weld a nut onto the old diff plug to take the thing out. And unfortunately, the threads were pretty bad on this, you can see. There you go. That is, it was ruined. Knowing that I couldn't put the plug back in, I also couldn't move the car. I wasn't planning on driving it, but I just needed to move it forwards and backwards, obviously, whilst I was waiting for a new plug to come. And I will put the link in the description, but there is a website for a fastener company in the States called Car, who give away free CAD models of the fasteners they sell. And as it happens, they sold a 1/2 inch BSP plug, and I printed one. This is the one. Even the threads. See that? Come on. Yeah, printed the threads. This went straight in, no leaks, no issues, was perfect for me just to move the car on, in and out of the garage, and could happily wait for another plug to come. So that's one example. You can print parts out of plastic, parts out of a material called TPU, which is a polyurethane, which is quite a useful thing if you need to make plugs. But the great thing is, especially with classic cars, these parts are out of production now. And sometimes you end up with parts that are basically rare but nobody cares. A bit like this. It's not a crutch, looks like one. This is a Desmo roof rack, available from the, I think it was late 60s, early 70s. Quite a cool thing, and I've wanted a roof rack for the Cortina for a while. Problem is, we're dealing with plastic that's 40, 50 years old, and you can't buy replacements. Now this is where 3D printing gets involved, because now if you spend the time learning to draw and to then print, you can resurrect parts that would otherwise be scrap. So I'll show you some of the parts that we're going to have to work on for this. So there are two parts that make up this. First, you've got these circular pieces with a cutout that will locate the rods to the side profile. That's fairly simple to draw because this is just basically made up of circles. This, however, is going to be a bit trickier because not only have we got this angle here that we need to get correct, we've got the holes, which seem to be a little bit offset from the center, and we've also got this profile on the back just to get correct. But I'm not using anything like 3D scanning or any specialist tools. All I really use when I'm drawing are this angle gauge. So this will help me find, the angle that we need. And then after that, it's just basic measuring tools, so rulers, vernier, and some time basically. Right, I'm going to jump to the CAD and I'll explain a bit more about what software you need. First off, you're going to need something to draw with. I use Autodesk Inventor, and there is a free version called Fusion, which is really good. I'm not that much different to this anyway, but I'd recommend having a play with this first, just to get a feel for the software and have a go at drawing before committing to buying a printer. That's what I did, and it seems to have worked out. But really, you can draw, there's certain shapes you can actually draw straight away, like boxes and cylinders. Extrusions are things that you have drawn, certain shapes, which is good for gaskets or anything other that's not a square or a circle. But there's a lot of tutorials out there that are worth looking into, and even I use them now and then because you don't know everything. There's so much stuff this software can do. But this is the piece that's going to go at the end of the rods that hold the roof rack together. And as I said earlier, it's really just a bunch of circles. So a cylinder with a hole in, with a smaller cylinder that goes up halfway. The reason I put a bit more of a shoulder on this is to make sure it's really secure on that pole, and then put taken a small section out so that it actually fits nicely onto the rod that it's perpendicular to. I thought I'd show you this one first. So for controlling the printer, you need a piece of software, and I use Ultimaker Cura. And what you see is the print area. So we've got the plate and how far we can go up. And in my case, it's 200mm by 200mm by 200mm. So it keeps it quite easy. And the part we've just drawn is currently located in the middle. You can do some really cool things with this. So you can rotate it, you can move it along on this build plate. I've laid it flat to the plate because that's the easiest way of printing this part, and depending on what you want to print yourself, you'll find the best way of doing that. But because I don't want to just do this 8 times, you can multiply it. So I'll add another 7 parts, and it will put them on this plate, so you can space them out, put them wherever we want. So I'm just going to quickly get some space between these because they're a bit too close together. Sorry, should go as quick as I can. There we go. So we've got these spaced out. And we can see here, this is all the settings for the printer. And there are so many different things you can change on this. It's quite amazing, actually. Everything's adjustable. And I'm still trying to find my way through it. But the things that are really going to affect you, first off, is layer height. And that is, this part will be broken down into small layers, and this is what it prints each time. And currently the layer height is 0.2mm, which is a good compromise between speed and quality. If you want better quality, use a lower layer height, and in some cases I've gone down to 0.05mm, and when I want something for a quick test, then I've gone up to 0.3mm. The next thing you'll see is this 25%, and I'll show you that in a second. But the infill. So assuming this was a solid piece with no cutouts underneath like here,
that would say the 25% infill is how full this inside is. So you can have 100% if you want a solid part, or if you don't, you just need something, again, for a dimensional check, 10%. I've put them at 25 because they're so small anyway, there isn't actually that much infill required. But if it was a bracket that I was going to use somewhere else on the car, I'd probably go up to 60, 70%. And that can be quite useful for just keeping it a stronger part that isn't using too much plastic. And these two pieces are off because we don't have any supports, which is something completely different that you'll find as you print more complex parts. Now, if I press slice, that's going to break these parts down into the layers. Give that a second. So we're looking about 4 hours to print this, and we're using 30 grams of material at 9.76 meters. Now, say that you tend to buy this material in the kilo, sorry, it's really very little material, so that's good to know. And this is what the layers will look like. So if I take this down a bit, you can see, I zoom in. So these orange lines are the infill. This is your outer, this is the inner, and then this is the infill. And there's various ways you can bulk these parts up without using too much material, but as I said, there's not a huge amount of infill required for these. But once you've tailored it to your printer and to the part to get the best compromises, then all you need to do is save it and take it to your printer, which we'll do now. So this is my 3D printer. It's an Anycubic i3 that I bought from eBay. It was a factory refurb and cost me about £130. It's a pretty good printer actually. Currently got a wood-based filament in that I'm trying out, so I'm going to change that over in a minute. But I actually find it easier to keep new technology on top of this gramophone. That way, keeps it all balanced. Which, to be fair, this needs some serious work, which I might do at a later date. But key points about this: when I bought it, I was looking for something that had a sturdy frame. So it's got this gantry here, so I don't have any issues with print quality. And the other thing is size. So yeah, you can see it's been used, but we have a build area of 200 by 200 by 200. And at the minute, I've not done anything that pushes any of that to its limit. So that's something worth thinking about. That's it. I'm going to change the filament now and get printing. Print was relatively successful, I think. I mean, the shape's slightly off, but I'm not upset. And because I didn't have much to go off with this one, I think that's turned out quite well. I've made them a little longer just so I can get the rod to seat in there quite deeply. But generally, I'm happy. I think next up, let's just get the rack built and we'll check it out. I've also bought some fresh fasteners. They're a little longer, but with Allen heads instead. But yeah, they fit fine. No problems there.
Right, let's get the rack built. So I hope you found that interesting about printing. I will be doing more on the channel, and if you've got any questions about buying a printer or CAD or anything else, please just get in touch, because I'll do my best to answer your questions. I've not got the roof rack on anymore. It did fit actually, and I'll be doing some more stuff with it in the future, but because I'm daily driving this at the minute, I took it off because it has a horrendous howl at 60 mile an hour from the roof rack, and I don't need that in my life right now. But anyway, that's it. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.